dear students. We are going to have our second lesson. This time our lesson is creative writing. You know what we are supposed to do with story writing. Make our stories as beautiful as possible by using very beautiful words. I want us to look at a very short sample of a story, and then we see the beauty in the story as well as the arrangement of sentence and ideas. Much as we are so much interested in the vocabulary used there, let us also focus on the sentence construction and the way the paragraphs proceed one another until when we come to the end of the story. It's a very short story, much as we are required to write a longer story, but it is basically for demonstration. I hope everyone is following the story we are going to look at, because it is right on your screen with that title, The Misery of Affliction. When you look at the title, we begin by appreciating the beauty in the title. There is a very beautiful word there, which is affliction. When it comes to our marks, we'll begin there by using a unique word. It is unique in the sense that it is not the usual word that we see. Affliction. When you look at affliction, it comes from the word to afflict. Affliction is a noun, and it forms a verb, which is to afflict. When you look at the verb afflict, it means harmful, something that is harmful, something that causes pain. Now when you look at affliction, which is the noun, then it is pointing at that something that brings the pain and suffering. The title is saying the misery of affliction. So the misery that comes out of the suffering, the misery that comes out of a painful, a harmful situation. So when you look at me interpreting what the title is, you clearly notice that the title is not in the lay language, which is one of our requirements, jumping away from the normal or usual English and then punctuating this very normal English with a few beautiful words that are quite abnormal. I want us to move direct to the first paragraph there. The story begins with an opening paragraph. The sun reflected a modicum of intense gloom as I played beside my father's hut. A thunderous but regal resound from the knocks. My father and uncles all dashed into their huts and picked up their weapons. The Zulu warriors moved nearer, looking insurmountable with their short, stabbing spears. Dear students, we have not yet come to the end of this story. We have just looked at the first paragraph. We have just read the first paragraph. But the first paragraph is creating an atmosphere, and it is pointing at the area in which our story is going to rotate. Even if we do not look up the words, our mind is already saying that when you look at the first paragraph, there's a particular atmosphere that is painted, atmosphere of fear. We look at the trend the storyline is taking. The stories we are used to have been love stories. This time we are dealing with a very different area as far as story writing is concerned. We are dealing with something to do with war, something fearful. An atmosphere of fear is instilled in us by the words, the choice of words that the writer has chosen in this story. But the beginning of it is also very important. The sun reflected a modicum of intense glow. Now we first have to understand the meaning of the word modicum in order to move with the writer of the story. When you check your dictionaries, you'll further, after this lesson, open the dictionaries and confirm and look at examples and construction where these words have been used. But briefly I would tell you that the word modicum is a noun. In order for us to be in position to use these words appropriately, then we should also be in position to understand the word class. The sun reflected a modicum. That is a noun, and it means small amount, especially it has to do with happiness. If you talk of a modicum, small amount of happiness, the word his face reflected a modicum of excitement. You know, maybe it was a sad situation. All of a sudden somebody smiles. That is a modicum, a limited small smile. That does not take a lot of time. So when we talk of the sun reflecting a modicum of intense glow, that means the atmosphere wasn't glowing at all. Maybe there was no sun in the sky. And then we have the sun coming out and reflecting some very limited light. That is the glow that the writer is talking about. So the glow is coming in limited amounts, very small amount, as reflected by our unique word there, which is modicum. So whoever is reading this story, this piece was written in a UNEB examination, then the examiner will begin marking the word modicum, because the sentence is reflecting that you know English. And remember, this paper is testing the English that you know, not the quantity but the quality of English. Now the quality is moving to a given level which is high because of the word arrangement and the usage of a word that appears very unique. Unique in the sense that it is not a common word, and not everyone will understand the meaning behind the word modicum. So modicum has already beautified the sentence. Remember the role that the vocabulary plays in the sentence. The word modicum has done it there. The sun has reflected a small amount of what would have been an intense glow. As the writer says, as I played beside my father's hut. Remember when we are learning story writing, I told you there are 3 tricks there in story writing. We look at the formula that we could employ if we are to write beautiful sentences. We look at the statement. This is our statement. And when we are completing it, we say statement vis-a-vis, the statement is the fact that we use, and on completion of this statement, then we have to either use a complementary statement or an effect. So it is statement vis-a-vis effect, or statement vis-a-vis reason, or statement vis-a-vis complementary statement. Complementary statement. So when you look at our sentence there, then you ask yourself, what exactly is it employing in order to make the statement complete? The sun reflected a modicum of intense glow as I played beside my father's hut, which means the writer is employing fact vis-a-vis complementary statement. This I played beside my father's hat complements the object in the sentence. Now we are yet to see the reason why the writer has decided to use the object of the sun. Why does the sun come in? And it comes in small amounts. Remember, the title is misery. Misery is associated to darkness. When we write a story, then we have to build an atmosphere that is in line with the story. If we are talking about the party, then we shall have full sun, full life. They are in line. If we are talking about burial, we cannot have full sun, full glow of the day. We shall have an indication, something to reflect there's a bad omen. It is a burial. The sun does not come out. It is very cold. Everyone is coiling for warmth. The atmosphere painted in the story will match very well with the action and the subject of the story. So here the writer, that is the reason why when the writer talks of the sun, he has to bring out this word, modicum, small amount. Then you ask yourself, why doesn't it blow fully? Because the actions in the story do not reflect anything to do with celebration, anything to do with excitement, anything to do with happiness, but they are reflecting misery, unhappiness, suffering. So the modicum matches very well. The choice of word is very appropriate as far as the subject is concerned. So when we move on, we have seen the sentence, we have seen the vocabulary there, and we have seen the sentence construction and how it comes about in order for the story to begin by making a lot of sense, and in order for the story to begin without the writer making any error. Look at the sentence that follows. A thunderous madrigal reason from the knocks. There's a thunderous madrigal resound from the knocks. Now the sun is limited, and all of a sudden, thunder. The word thunderous is from thunder, which means the sound is as high as thunder. There's a little sunshine, a very limited glow, and then we have boom, the thunder comes. The scary moments have come in the story. This could be equated to a horror flick. When you're watching a horror, in order to intensify the fear in you, the person watching the movie, there is certain music that is used by the producer of this film. Boom, 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 and you don't want to look at the TV because you're scared of what is going to happen next. Now the writer is alerting us that what is going to come is not good as well. It is reflecting that limited glow. It is now coming again with a thunderous resound. We get scared. What is going to happen next? This person is seated in the hut. There's no sun, and there's a thunderous sound that is coming from the knocks. My father and uncles all dashed into their huts. We talk of relationship in sentences. We are seeing how related the sentences are. The thunder is creating the fear, and that is the reason why the writer has decided to put it in the story. And because it creates the fear, the uncles and the father have dashed into the house. They wouldn't have dashed into the house if there was nothing to scare them. That is the sole reason why the sentence that comes before father uses that word, thunderous reason. Then we see people dashing into the house and picking their what? Their weapons. That is already an indication of insecurity, the misery of affliction. The moment they hear the thunder, they run into the house and then they pick their weapons in order to defend them. Maybe this was the order of the day in this area. Maybe this writer here might have been in an area where there was war, And now he's creating a story out of the situation that he experienced during the period of war. We could relate this to maybe what happened in the north when there was an insurgency. The moment people would hear noise, they rushed to rescue. They would rush to rescue their lives. Either enter in the house or pick a weapon to defend yourself, or do something. You do not just sit there and gaze and look on. So when the thunder comes, they run into the huts and they pick their weapons. Then the next sentence, the Zulu warriors moved nearer, looking insurmountable with their short stabbing spears. The misery of affliction. Now, I hope you see, and by the end of the paragraph, I hope you see why the writer has employed the usage of that beautiful word, modicum. Everything is scary here. The atmosphere painted does not show anything different, but it also shows something that is somber. Remember, we talked of somber. The writer here is creating a mood that is somber. This could be equated to the mood that is painted when we go for burial. At the burial ground, the mood is somber. People might not shed tears, but inside their hearts, they are weeping for the loss of the loved ones. Even one that would wish to speak would speak silently because of that somber mood. Now, when you look at that mood, it is the same mood that the writer is trying to create in this story. A mood that paints fear. There is a thunderous sound. People are rushing into the house. They are picking their weapons. The Zulu warriors are also coming with their short stabbing spears. But they are looking insurmountable. Now we have a task here of looking for the meaning of what does the writer mean by a thunderous madrigal resound. Just like we looked at the beautiful word modicum, the next beautiful word there is madrigal. Now, before you even look up the word, you look at the sentence itself. If the writer says a thunderous madrigal, then you look at thunderous. The noun is thunder. Thunderous is an adjective, which means madrigal is a noun. This adjective thunderous is modifying our noun madrigal in order for us to understand the extent of the sound that is coming to scare off these people so that they can run into the house. And when you look it up in the dictionary, madrigal as a noun means several sounds. A madrigal, under normal circumstances, if we pull out of this story, it is a song that is sung by several singers, usually without a musical instrument. Because there are several singers, then we have various voices that are mixed up to produce a particular sound. So the writer uses thunderous to indicate it is very loud. And then madrigal, it is a mixture of several sounds that we could not be in position to define. Whether it is a gunshot, whether somebody is hitting some metallic object, whether someone has hit an axe so hard, there are several sounds that are coming in, but they are so scary in the sense that they make these people run into their huts and pick their weapons. They know that this sound is not a welcoming sound, but it is a very dangerous sound. Then when we move on, we have looked at modicum, then madrigal, then when you move on, we have insurmountable. The Zulu warriors moved nearer, looking insurmountable. Now, looking is a verb. If we have a word that follows the verb, then it means this word is modifying the verb look. And if it is modifying the verb look, then insurmountable will obviously be an adverb. Insurmountable look. as they look for as they carry their short stabbing spears. Now, insurmountable means is a synonym to insuperable. If you do not use insurmountable, then you can use insuperable. What do the two words mean? Insurmountable means difficulty. Difficulty that cannot be dealt with successfully. These people are looking and they are clearly showing that we are advancing, and whichever effort you'll make here, you'll not be able to fight us. That is the success that we are talking about. They are looking insurmountable. Even if they rush to their houses to pick their weapons, when these people advance, the look on their faces is warning them that whatever you're going to do, you are not in any way going to achieve success. So the words here create the fear. The words here, before we even see war, maybe we shall see war in the story or not, but they are reflecting that something is going to happen. If we have people with their weapons, and these ones have short stabbing spears, then we do not expect them to use the weapons to caress themselves, but they are going to use the weapons to fight one another. The misery of affliction. Let us move on to the second paragraph, and then we see what it has to say. My father, who was in charge of the army, blew the corn to notify all other villages that they had been ambushed by the Zulus. My father, who had been, wait a minute, I move this. My father, who was in charge of the army, blew the cow horn to notify all other villages that they have been ambushed by the Zulus. You know, Africans were very smart. They had different ways of communication. Now they have been attacked, and the looks on these people's faces is insurmountable. They are clearly showing them they will not succeed. What do they have to do? The next thing they do is to seek for help. Sometimes most of us fail to paragraph. Now when we come to the issue that these people are going to seek for help, we have moved to another idea. We started on the north. When there's an attack, these people are just sitting, and then they hear the sound, and then they rush, and they pick their weapons, and then they are being attacked. And that is closed as an idea. Because we are moving to the next step, the writer takes us on what happens next. Now they seek for help. Because now that is so different, that is the sole reason why we have entered into a second paragraph. We are learning how to do it as far as paragraphing is concerned. Now, the father blows the horn and is alerting the rest that the Zulus have come. And what happens now that he has blown the horn? Are we going to see the members of the village coming in to help? What does the writer do? Instead of us moving straight to what the other people do, whether they have heard or not, the writer now takes us to his side. Now that he has blown the horn, and all this has happened, what happens to the writer himself? The writer says, I gazed dumbfounded, watching the kaleidoscope as the warriors assassinated all my kinsmen. Can you imagine? Did we agree? The writer says the look was insurmountable. It was very hard for them to gain the success. And indeed they have failed to gain the success because the warriors have assassinated the kinsmen before even help comes in. The beautiful word there just like the other beautiful words we have seen there, is dumbfounded. I would also say, when the writer uses I gazed, the word gaze might not necessarily fetch us a tick, but it has shifted us from the tired word, which is look. And this is even action-packed, because when I say look, you will not know the manner in which I look at somebody. I might have taken just a glimpse, very short look. But when I say I gazed, I stared, it is action-packed in the sense that it reflects the look we are giving to something or somebody is not for a very short time. It's not for a minute. It's not for a second. It could take a minute, 1 or 2, but not a second. So we appreciate the usage of the word gaze. But how does this person gaze? I gazed dumbfounded. Dumbfounded. Speechless. Dumbfounded means the same thing as speechless. He's so shocked. Maybe he wants to say something, but because of fear, he's not in position to say whatever he would wish to say, but simply gazes on as if he cannot do anything. The warriors have taken away all the kingsmen, and the help has not yet come, and is wondering of what to do next. I gazed dumbfounded, watching the kaleidoscope as the warriors assassinated all my kingsmen. Wahim, pity him. No wonder they took off and picked their weapons, because they know that the moment the Zulu warriors come, it is going to be disaster. We started by saying the word affliction means pain and suffering. The pain is coming in. Indeed, the title of the story is rhyming with the action and the events in the story very well. When you make choice of a title, the title should be in line with what the story is talking about. It is not meant to be totally different, because in the title we get hints of what the story should be. So when you look at these, all these are in line. The two are actually in line. We are seeing the warriors come, and we are seeing the writer becoming dumbfounded and watching them as they take on the kingsmen. Look also for the meaning of that word, kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope. If I'm not mistaken, these are instruments that you use in the laboratory. When it comes to physics, that kaleidoscope. What do we see in a kaleidoscope? We may see patterns. Patterns that are moving, that aren't clear to us. Here, kaleidoscope can also mean a situation that contains a lot of parts that are always changing. Watching the kaleidoscope as the warriors, they're doing this, they're doing the other, the situation is full of activity. And when they come to attack, they will not only grab the kingsmen and take them away, they will twist, they will try to frighten, twist their bodies, twist their arms, shoot in the air. That is what the writer means by the kaleidoscope, as the warriors assassinated my kinsmen. Next sentence says, I held my little brother. I held my little brother. That's more. I held my little brother. Sorry. I held my little brother by the hand, since I had become their in loco parentis. Because the kingsmen have taken away, the warriors have taken away the kingsmen. At first, this person gazes dumbfoundedly, but later he comes back to his senses. If he cannot get help from elsewhere, then let him try to protect the little brothers because they have not been taken. He holds them and then becomes their in loco parentis. That word in loco parentis is one word that has three different words. But as you make corrections there, the word parentis has hyphens in them. It is meant to have hyphens. It is P-A-R, and then a hyphen, and then E-N-T, and then a hyphen, then we have the T-I-S. This is a borrowed word. It is borrowed from Latin. And I think when you look at its structure, it does not look so much of English, much as it has been borrowed into the English language. Borrowed from Latin. What does this word mean? If somebody is in loco parentis, that means that person has sense of responsibility for a child as a parent. Now when he holds them, remember they are little brothers, holds them by the hands and then begins acting like a parent, begins taking responsibility as a parent. Under normal circumstances, in this situation, what should a parent do? The parent is meant to protect these little children. You cannot do much. You do not have something metallic, something that is bulletproof to cover the kids, but you could use your hands, and in using them and holding them tightly, maybe some women who wear very big skirts, they try to put them under the skirt. They are holding them in loco parentis, taking responsibility to ensure that these children are safe. The next sentence says, we ran swiftly to the mountainside where we found a primordial cave in which we hid. The sentences are so connected to one another. When you look at the story right from the start, one sentence is leading us to another. A sentence that comes before one drives us directly into the next sentence without bumping us there by mistake. That is what we call coherency. You cannot write a good story unless it is coherent. Coherency means the story is moving systematically from one stage to another without leaving gaps. Sound comes, they are scared, they run for their weapons, the attackers come, is dumbfounded, he comes back to his senses, tries to rescue the kids, and then in rescuing them, what does he do? He takes them to a cave. He has used the word primordial cave. That is another beautiful word in this story. Primordial cave. Why doesn't the writers plainly say, I took the children to the cave? No. The story is demonstrating what we look at in class. The use of word modifiers. The use of word modifiers. And the word modifiers, like we said, are either adjectives or adverbs. And we shall place them where? We shall place them where the noun is. So when you look at that second paragraph, found a primordial cave in which we hid. Then we look at the meaning of primordial, that adjective, because it is modifying the cave there. Primordial means existing at or from the beginning of the world. Then if the cave is primordial, that means it is a cave that has been there for a very long time. The cave has been there for a very long time. It is primordial in that it is ancient, it has been in existence, a primordial cave. It would be inappropriate if this writer had simply said and found a cave, but modifies the cave with that beautiful word, primordial cave, long ago cave, long existing cave in which we hid. They are seeking for refuge in order to ensure that they are safe as far as their lives are concerned. The next sentence, we later moved homeward when the canvas of darkness had concealed the once livid world. They hide in the primordial cave. Maybe one thing I forgot to tell you is that if you do not use primordial, then you can use primeval. If you do not remember primordial, then it means the same thing as primeval. Something that has been there for long since the world started up to now. It is old, it has taken a lot of time. It came into existence during the early period. Primordial or primeval. A primeval cave. We can have a primeval house. A primordial cave, we can have a primordial house. The house has been there. If you go back to where you come from, back in the villages, your great-great-grandfather might have built a house made of mud. And maybe the family gets money thereafter, but they do not demolish the old house. They leave it there for remembrance, memories. And if it happens to be in existence up to now, you might find that it is so dilapidated. During those days, they would use mud and reeds. And maybe the reeds that were covered with mud are now coming out open, and you can see them. The windows are not in existence, but they still want to look at it and remember that is where grandmother used to sleep. That is where she would serve our supper. That is where the kids would sleep. They leave it hanging there for memories. If it is an old house that was there since your lineage started, then it is a primordial house. It is a primeval house. It does not mean that we can use only this word when it comes to a cave, but we shall use it on things that have been there for a very long time. I think it would be very appropriate if we were to visit the museum. That is where we see things that were there even during Stone Age period. And then they explain to you, and then they tell you how early man used to use all these objects. Those are primordial objects. Primeval objects. If we go by the car, the first car, I don't know what its name was, the first car that was manufactured when the world came in place, when man started driving a car. In some of the museums, maybe we might not be having it here in a country, but if you go abroad, you might be in position to see the first car, the very first that was created. And if you set your eyes on it, then you're going to say, it is a primordial car. It is a primeval car. It has been there since the early period. That is basically what the writer means here. We later moved homewards when the canvas of darkness had concealed the once livid world. I like the next sentence because of that long expression there. The canvas of darkness. When I talk of canvas, many of you, your minds run to your canvas shoes. But what does canvas mean? A canvas of darkness. We can have a canvas of darkness conquering the earth, especially when the day happens to retire and the night is coming. When the day retires and night is setting in, then we have a canvas of darkness. The heavens will be painted as if they have collected clouds and packed them together, and then darkness comes. That is what we mean by canvas of darkness. Now they hide in the cave, and then when it becomes very dark, they decide to move. We say the canvas of darkness concealed the once livid world. Darkness is also an indication of certainty. This point, before we read the next paragraph to know where the story ends, we begin wondering, will these people survive? Will these people make it? Will the attackers, the Zulu warriors, be in position to see where they are hiding? Or is it the darkness that is helping protect them? Remember, the father sounded the horn to notify other villagers. And did they come to their rescue? Maybe they did, but remember the kinsmen have been taken. Maybe they were part of them, and now they have been taken away. And now they have sought refuge in that cave, but it is coming dark. At this point, I hope you see how scary the story is. It is indeed a scary story. Even the title scares us because it reflects pain and suffering. We might not have discovered the extent of the suffering before we end the story, but we get so scared. There's a hint there, and indeed things are becoming worse and worse up to the point where we are. The story still moves on, but we shall continue with this and connect in our next lesson and complete the story, and then we see how best we can play around with these words. And because of time, we shall end the story here, but I urge you to further look at those parts we have studied together. Look at the words and understand them, grasp them, practice them, construct sentences of your own using the same words, and see whether you have mastered them and you can use them appropriately. Besides that, I would like you to also focus on the succession of sentences, how sentences follow one another and how paragraphs follow one another. We have so far looked at only 2 paragraphs, but they are making a lot of sense. And in them, I have demonstrated how we paragraph. Wherever we move from one idea to another, then it calls for a paragraph. We have seen how the writer comes in with another idea and then creates a second paragraph. It does not mean the story ends there. Our next lesson will continue from where we have ended, and then we see how the story writer manages to end this beautiful story. I wish you the best. This marks the end of this first section of creative writing. Thank you.